everybody buys their Apple phone and puts that on a payment plan. They buy their house on a mortgage, right? They finance their vehicles. And so I always tell roofers, like, don't forget, like, look around. So I think a lot of roofing contractors are also realizing, like, do I want to actually run a roofing company until I'm 70 years old and on Social Security? Or am I trying to actually build something that one day I would hope is worth something to sell? The industry is evolving into like, oh, you can make drug dealer money doing roofing. You know what I mean? Like Pablo Escobar style.
Hey, how's it going? This is the Hook Better Leads podcast, and today I've got Becca Switzer like 3 or 4 times on our podcast now.
It's a number of times. I don't. Who's counting?
It's like we come on every single year because there's always things changing in sales.
Yeah.
And some of these are like 2 or 3, 4 year shifts, but we're talking about what's changing in sales for 2025. And what are the pain points right now for roofers that you can help them with? Because you're talking to so many people.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes, you're hearing their challenges. If you want to do like a 1-minute kind of primer on Becca Switzer for the people that may not know, but I know a lot of people that are watching this will kind of know you.
Yeah. Well, I'm Becca Switzer. I'm the founder and CEO of Roof Sales Mastery and author of Diamonds in the Sky. And I've been in the industry since 2010, and I've been teaching roofing contractors how to recruit sales reps, train their sales reps, and supplement using Xactimate now for 10 years, like since 2014. So yeah, I mean, I'm basically talking to roofing contractors every single day to help them scale their businesses, train people, and keep them up to speed on what works.
And I know that we're gonna find new ideas. We did talk about some before the podcast, but talk to me about those big pain points that are hitting roofers right now that are like, they come to you struggling sometimes with like, this is hard.
So, I mean, something that's really current, people are kind of doing the Chicken Little, like the sky is falling feeling, because there's a lot of claims that are going to be ACV moving forward, and there's higher like hail and wind deductibles. And it's actually funny because we're here in the state of Florida. Florida's been dealing with really high hurricane deductibles that have been taking like a more retail approach to roofing for probably 10 or 20 years. But, you know, people in the hail markets who have been spoiled by the golden age of $1,000 deductibles and, you know, basically free roofs, they're not able to see that anymore with certain carriers. And so definitely teaching them how to frame that sale, because it's still an incredible sale. Like, that's the crazy thing, right? Even if you have, let's say that I was going to go buy a new car, right? And I went up to the Jeep dealership and they said, hey, good news, you're going to get 40% off this Jeep. Your insurance company is going to pay for 40% of it. I'd be like, that's the sickest deal of a lifetime, right? The only person that would think that that's a bad deal is if they were around 10 years ago when the Jeep dealership used to do 95% off, right? It's still a crazy discount. And so teaching them about just framing that deal, it's still an incredible deal. And then, of course, shifting into financing, like everybody else has to do, you know? Everybody buys their Apple phone and puts that on a payment plan. They buy their house on a mortgage, right? They finance their vehicles. And so I always tell roofers, like, don't forget, like, look around. You're here selling roofs with these big, like, with the financial aid of State Farm, complaining about it, but you're other people in similar service industries, like deck contractors who build big decks or swimming pools, or they do kitchen remodels or bathroom remodels, or they sell $700,000 houses. They're doing that without the financial aid of State Farm, and they're financing it. You know, people are used to doing that. So I think it's just a shift in mindset. It's stuff that customers are used to having to finance large home improvement products or projects, right? So having contractors just get in more comfortable with that.
Yeah, when I hear somebody not doing that all the time, I get very confused.
You're like, tell me about your cash flow.
Yeah, what are they doing? Because it's like a why not situation. I mean, we do it for our projects. It's like, we might be able to pay for that, but we prefer to just do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and look at it like this too. So especially with an insurance check, let's say that Mrs. Jones is going to get, let's say her roof is going to be 25 grand and she's getting 17 grand from her insurance company. Let's say that it's a little bit depreciated and she has a bigger deductible, whatever. It's like, Mrs. Jones, when that $17,000 check comes, would you rather give it to me, or would you like to just put it in your bank? And they're like, put it in the bank, duh, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, yeah, that's what most people would rather do. What we can do is we'll put that $17,000, that big chunk of cash, in your bank. We'll finance the job, so you only pay $250 a month on it, and you can take that big lump sum and do whatever you want with it. You can pay off a high interest credit card debt that you might have, or put a down payment on a car, or put it in the college fund, or take did you ever go on a honeymoon? Maybe you can go on a really nice, honeymoon vacation or whatever, right? So it makes sense to people. They'd rather take 17 grand and be like, yeah, I'll pay you an affordable monthly payment for my roof. So it's just about how to sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've been in an industry where we're so spoiled. Like, I always make a joke when I talk about roof sales. I'm like, it kind of pains me to call this sales. We're literally like giving roofs away to people who already need them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just teaching the industry how to actually be sales people and sell value, right?
Mm. Yeah, because it's harder a little bit to move from storm to retail than it would be from a retail guy is not going to have a hard time.
Yeah, they're like, I can give this away,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe just a few intricacies, but then it's like, okay, this is not too hard. Do you sometimes train people on how to do that, to go from retail to storm?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of roofing contractors that'll come to me and they're like, we're in this town where a hailstorm came and I've never dealt with insurance, and all these out-of-town storm chaser types are coming in and they're gobbling up the work, and like we're getting left behind because we don't know how to do it. So yeah, I definitely get a lot of that. So it's fun, but you're right, it's funny. We're kind of doing like the opposite now.
Which, you sell something that's a little higher ticket. I sell something that's pretty high ticket.
Yeah.
And we build a lot of value. Like we're using Engage. It's a software to like present things and like really kind of like show visuals for what is value. Mm-hmm. Visuals for value. We've got videos, we've got animations, we've got tons of stuff, and we're trying to build trust the whole time, and we're sitting there and there's a lot of little expensive things that we pay for to make our sales presentation really, really good.
Yeah.
And there is more to kind of pay attention to if you have to do that retail thing. I mean, like, you gotta go hard.
Yeah.
Like, I'm guessing even for yours, it's like, how much do you have to show them a little bit versus tell them?
So are you asking
for
you, me personally pitching my product?
Yeah, I'm curious give us a little behind the scenes for fun.
Yeah.
Of like, what's a challenge when you're pitching your thing, and like, how do you build trust?
So we'll wait for this rescue helicopter.
That was actually badass stuff.
Brett, is this Baywatch? Where's David Hasselhoff? He's drunk.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as building trust, like, and this is not a quick answer for people who are just starting if they're going to be trying to take lessons from this, but one of the major benefits that I have is there's actually two. One, I'm like the OG, and I'm not saying that to be like arrogant or anything like that, but I was the first person like in the industry to actually create any type of like SOP for sales training. Mm-hmm. So I have a really long history now. People have been following me for sometimes like 5, 6, 10 years. So there's like a long online relationship that kind of takes place, and people get to like digest your content for long periods of time. By the time I talk to people, they're usually like, it's so common that I'll get on a call and they go, I've been following your stuff since 2016. Like I always said as soon as I was ready, I was going to buy your stuff. So there's that.
That's a big lesson in and of itself.
Yeah.
How can you use marketing to pre-sell people 80% of the way?
It's so pre-selling is like the biggest tactic that I do. Mm-hmm. Everything that I put out is so like content rich that I give away a lot of my best stuff for free. Like if you go on YouTube and you pour through, you'll hear me say stuff that you're like, she's giving that away. But when people hear that, they're like, if she's giving that good of stuff away for free, like what is the paid content, right? Mm-hmm. So that happens. And then I made a really concerted effort to make sure, like I would ask people like, hey, will you leave me a detailed testimonial? And I wouldn't just say, hey, will you leave me a testimonial? I would say, answer these 5 questions, right? One of the most important questions is, why would you recommend Roof Sales Mastery to another roofing contractor? Because that allows them to be like, well, blah, 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 right? I asked them like, hey, were you skeptical at first? And if you were, why? When you got started, what were your results? And like, why would you recommend the program to other people? So I have a lot of testimonials.
I love that framework.
Yeah.
And I feel like roofers could use that too.
100%.
I want to use that.
Yeah.
That sounds dope.
Yeah, because then roofers go, well, I was kind of nervous to pick a roofing contractor because they can be sketchy and blah, blah, blah. But then I found Tim, and Tim really took care of me. He always answered my phone calls. They did an awesome job. They made sure that the gate was always closed so my dog didn't get out. They cleaned up. They used this fancy catch-all system. They could leave these really detailed
What
reviews.
does that do? Like, what are those types of testimonials? Why do you use those questions? And what does it do for the person reading them?
Because if you're somebody that's looking up a company and trying to decide if you should go with them, that testimonial needs to say, I understand, I was just like you. Hey, person looking for a roofer, I was just like you. I felt really nervous to pick somebody because I heard horror stories about people taking money and ditching town or whatever, right? So I want them to be like, for example, like if a roofing contractor client of mine is leaving a testimonial, I want them to say, hey, I had dumped probably $15,000 into Indeed ads or ZipRecruiter ads. I had hired this company that was a headhunting company to put sales rep candidates in front of me, and I got jack shit for it. And I was almost at my wit's end. I was tired of spinning my wheels. I was burnt out doing ride-along training and having these reps fizzle out. And then I finally decided to give it one last ditch effort, and I talked to Becca. And in 30 days, I had 285 applicants to my door-to-door commission roof sales position. I had hired, launched, and kept like 9 new sales reps, and they've already turned in $500,000 in sales in 30 days. Like, those types of testimonials are really powerful.
Let me ask you a pressing question a little bit. If you were to start a roofing company, what would you think you would really excel at? And what do you think would be very challenging for you if you were to just do this from scratch and go all in on a roofing company?
So if I were running a roofing company, so the first thing is, this is a funny answer, I actually wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, my talent is not in operations of any kind. I'm a really creative person. So do you want me to answer that hypothetically? Or
I want you to answer that hypothetically,
Okay.
and I want, and then I appreciate any other detail on that, but I'm more interested in the hypothetical. Because I know that you're not going. I also am probably not going to start a roofing company. However, it is very tempting to me sometimes because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of unsophisticated and unprofessional companies out there, and I believe I could compete with many of those.
Yeah.
That's how I really feel. It's probably too honest.
Right.
But
so
I'm not going to, because I believe I also have a unique genius, and it's not in running a trades business right now.
Exactly. Yeah. My creative genius is definitely more like how I get to use writing and teaching sales and giving people recipes. I mean, that's really, so where would I shine? I mean, it would probably still be like in the same way that I shine right now, which is providing the recipe for success for things. So it would probably be in training sales reps. I mean, honestly, and that's the lifeblood of the company anyway. It's funny because I'll see roofing companies get started and they'll dump a ridiculous amount of capital in their marketing first, and they're wrapping their trucks and
which we appreciate, by the way.
Which of course isn't not to shit on that.
No, I'm kidding.
But they'll put a ton of money into looking like a roofing company without having anybody that can generate leads and close deals. And it's like, that's the first, you need to have a revenue stream, and your revenue stream is not, leads coming in mean nothing if you don't have somebody that can close those.
That's right.
There's a difference between fuel and fire, right? Like, a lot of people are just dumping fuel on their business without even having a fire going. So if you have good sales reps who can close business, well, yes, now dump leads on them.
Yes.
But more it's a lot of the time it's not a lead problem, it's a closing problem, right? So the first thing that's like the most important thing that you have to have is closers. And so investing in salespeople's training, and not just their training, like bringing them to conferences and stuff is great. You could have me watch the Food Network. I could go to the Great British Baking Conference and pick up some good stuff, but not as much as if you handed me the recipe to bake the cake on paper. If you give me that, I can bake cakes for your bakery all day long, right?
Yeah.
This is a subscription to knowledge, the most in-depth knowledge that you can find in our industry. We're spending the money to make sure that our production value is so high that you'll actually absorb the information and feel like you're getting something premium at the Building Experts Institute.
Okay, so let's get into the 2025 thing one more time, because I think it's fun to talk about these New Year's. It feels so good. I love setting all these goals. I love New Year shit. I know that like
New year, new me.
Yeah, I love exactly. I always do a New Year, new me. I really do love it. I do like vision boards and all the shit. And I know it's like been a couple years where everyone's been down on what is it called, the goals where you set a goal for the year. I don't really do that.
Yeah.
Well, no, I do set goals. I don't do like I'm going to do a big life change. I'm trying to do those life changes way before the new year or whatever.
Yeah. Get that momentum.
Yeah, but I do set big goals, and I think that's fun. If somebody is trying to modernize their roofing company, and maybe they're a few years behind, 2, 3, 4 years behind, but for 2025, they want to really have a few initiatives that actually do something, because you can't do that many new initiatives at once. You can't change the CRM and change the comp plan and change the recruiting everything. You can't change the marketing company and this and that, rebrand all at the same time. You got to choose a few big initiatives each year. That's what I think. I don't think people should be doing 5. I think they should be doing like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So where do you think people get the biggest bang for their buck? Even like besides mastering the recruiting and sales training systems, like just based on your experience, where do you see people like fall behind and then?
Probably just on back end, like organization, like job files, you know what I mean? Like if you're not using a CRM that's going to be tracking and telling you every step, like where the job is and who needs to do what, I think that's where a lot of stuff falls through the cracks with people. I mean, that's an easy answer, but if you're talking about somebody who's trying to modernize their system, that's probably the easiest thing. You know, like think about people who are still not using company cam, for God's sakes. Like they're taking pictures on their phone and then like attaching them to an email or dropping them into a Google Drive file or something like that. So I think just having like there's so many good ones out there right now. Like everybody says Roofr, but it's Roofer, but Roofr or RoofLink or like something like that. That's going to integrate with things like Company Cam or QuickBooks, and everything's just right there. So you have optics on your business and all the job files are trackable and you're not, fumbling through files and emails, stuff like that. It's all in one place. That's probably the easiest way to streamline a business that feels like they're a little bit behind the times.
Things that feel like they're surging in 2025, 2023, 4 or 5, quick estimates, like Roofr, like different quick estimate tools. Like where have you seen that people using those types of tools really get something substantial, or are you not gung-ho on those?
I think they're really cool. I can't tell you that I have a lot of data on that people have reported a lot to me, but I have gotten to do demos with some of those services, and I think it's a really interesting. What I think is the coolest aspect of it is the lead acquisition aspect. So like somebody scans a QR code and it's like, how much would your new roof be? And they're like, I want to see, and they get to see their own roof and then they get to click through. I think that's really fascinating. And it's a really cool way to get highly qualified, interested prospects and lead information, right? Because nobody's going to go through and see how much their roof would cost if they're not actually interested in getting their roof done, right? So then you get a lead acquired that basically somebody's raised their hand and said, I want to know how much my new roof would be, and then you get to call them and talk to them about that. So I think that's cool.
We've had we have a client that like took Roofle and really pushed it as the main conversion point on the website. Is Monarch Roofing.
Okay.
So it's a client of ours.
Yeah.
It scared me because they did it and they didn't tell us, and then boom, we're looking at like it's a higher barrier to entry. But they did it partly because they had so many leads and they were trying to like make them the best leads, and they didn't want just it was almost like to slow them down and to qualify them more.
Right.
Which is scary as a marketing company to slow down leads, right?
Yeah.
But they really like it for that reason, to like super qualify people. So if you had like so many leads that you wanted to push it, other people have said like realtors, and then also like Facebook groups. If you're getting referred a lot, or if you just want there's 10 roofers being referred in a Facebook group, you could pop your link for that in there and be like, hey, I know there's a lot of other great companies on here that are being recommended. We just believe transparency and pricing is really important, and you can actually get your roof quote, and so you can like cut through the noise a little bit with it. So
I love that.
I think, you know, it just feels like everyone's doing it. So I wanted to note on the instant quotes thing.
Yeah.
Just feels like everyone's doing it. I think it's almost like not even an optional thing anymore. It's like you should have something like that. I don't know. That's my take.
Yeah.
It might be a hot take. What else is like 2025 the year of?
Well, I mean, private equity is a huge push right now.
Yeah.
It seems like it's interesting. Private equity companies have been really interested in like buying up service industry businesses. So, so I think a lot of roofing contractors are also realizing like, do I want to actually run a roofing company until I'm 70 years old and on Social Security? Or am I trying to actually build something that one day I would hope is worth something to sell? And the problem is like, because our industry has been run like the wild, wild west for so long, and it's getting better now, things are getting modernized and updated. But I think a lot of roofing companies are realizing like, all you actually have right now is a leased office space with tables and chairs and computers that are going to be obsolete in a couple of years. Like, you don't actually have anything to sell. Like, so without having actual systems and processes, like that's what people are interested in buying.
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't matter. Think about like McDonald's, right? McDonald's has insanely high turnover, right? But it doesn't matter because they've dumbed down how to run a McDonald's so much that you've got anybody can come in. You've got like stoned teenagers, right, that are working the drive-thru, and they're going to be able to run that McDonald's. And so it's because McDonald's has such a tried and true system. And so buying into a McDonald's franchise is you're buying into the system, and that system's already proven to work. So with roofing companies, if you're doing the like, welcome to the team, ride around with Joe Bob for a couple days and listen to him knock doors, you don't have anything to sell. Right? What if Joe Bob leaves and he's the only guy that knew how to do anything?
So Rilla allows you to listen to, it's an AI in your pocket, listens to the appointment. It's pretty crazy what it can do. It gives a script, gives everything they said, it breaks down some statistics for you.
Analyze talk ratio, interactivity, like how you and I are interacting back and forth, longest modeling, like all those things.
Honestly, this is the shit that I most believe in AI.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Enhancing the
You're
user
about to put
experience.
math and data around something that used to be my magic skill.
I like the modernization and professionalization aspects of private equity. I hate the squashing, like sometimes they squander resources, like private equity can squander things. Like for instance, if they buy 50 roofing companies, like 5 can die, you know, in the process. And we see a lot of resentments because we're actually going over the HVAC side and seeing private equity has run through a lot of it already, you know, and like picked it down to the bone, and they're way more modern, cool stuff, but then it's also like a lot of people are mad from whatever happened. You know, in some cases, on the positive side, you have people that were HVAC business owners that then created massively valuable software and innovations for products in the industry now because they came out with millions and they needed something to do with it. So there will be like that happens over the next 10 years too. But I think that 2025 is the year of a fever pitch of these private equity companies and how the EBITDA, the multiples on roofing companies. So I would say if you are thinking about it and you've had a good couple years, it's probably a good year to sell. It feels like a very good year to sell. They're getting very generous. I think we have a couple more years of very generous. I might be wrong. Maybe it's much longer than that. You got to have good books for the last couple of years. You have to have great processes around those. But what would you say would be, besides the thing you mentioned, is there anything else that would be like, they would be unlikely to buy your company from what you've seen?
Well, I'm not an expert in private equity, by the way, so this is really just like speculation on some things. I mean, you have to be able to show profit for a certain number. So a lot of companies don't even probably have good bookkeeping. You know, like what are you able to show?
There's also like close rate. Like if your close rate is trash, they're gonna wonder why. You know, and one of the things is like, if your close rate is trash, try to fix that before you sell it. You know, like the reason that they want your thing is because they think they can tweak a few dials.
Right. They don't
And
wanna
then
do
they
an
can make a lot
overhaul.
more.
Right.
They can make a lot more if they just tweaked your close rate and this and that.
Yeah.
But you could just make that money
Yeah.
if you could tweak those dials.
You know, another interesting thing, I'm just going to throw this out there because I think it's important. For anybody who is trying to sell a company that's probably $5 million or more. So I have my financial advisor, his name's Elliot Omenson, and he has a company called Alphi. And he's working with all of these companies that are selling businesses to private equity, because when you make that transaction, you're going to lose like 30% of it to the federal government. And he has a really cool strategy for the business owners that are selling to dramatically reduce what they would owe in taxes. So if anybody is going, if you're interested in selling your business to private equity, please reach out to me. Or it's actually Elliot, ELLIOT at owlfi, OWLFI.com. But he can help these business owners keep a lot more of the money that they're.
That's cool.
Especially when you're selling it for millions of dollars, like 30%. That's a stiff price.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you want to keep more of that money.
I think I do. I'll just for fun. Let's just like predict random shit for 2025.
Occupy Mars.
We're
gonna be roofing on Mars.
I'm gonna predict rich ass roofing company owners. I'm gonna predict we have like next year at these conferences, we have just more ballin' roofing company owners that are doing weird, fun things that we didn't think of before because they're ballin'.
Right. Well, yeah, it's like we're not just in the construction industry anymore. It's like the industry is evolving into like, oh, you can make drug dealer money doing roofing. You know what I mean? Like Pablo Escobar style.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you don't have, like we know, you don't have to come to these conferences to do this stuff. There's so many people under the radar that are winning and crushing and like.
Yeah.
I just like the community. That's fun. I don't know if I was an actual roofing company owner, if I would be at these things that often, but I definitely come every once in a while just to like.
Socialize.
Yeah, and I also like, what I like to do is I like to be like, because I just went to one of these for agencies, I'm like, just a temperature, like where are we at?
Yeah.
I was actually, it's because there's like a bad, like our sales were down or whatever, so I was just like checking. I was like, okay, is everything, and everyone was like, no, everything's good, and then we had like a crazy huge month, but that was like right after the election, so that's where I got like
people are like, whew, the world's not gonna come to an end. Okay, good.
Which I hope, and I'm kind of like, I'm just in a, it feels political to say, but I'm just like, hope that the next year for roofing sales is really big.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there is like a lot of consumer confidence coming out of the election.
Yeah.
And it feels like there's probably going to be a lot of money spent this next year. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I feel like people are, absolutely. I mean, we've got an administration that really wants to, first of all, create transparency and accountability in government spending, which means we're probably going to have hopefully a significant reduction in income tax. And so people are going to be keeping more of the money that they earn, you know? And I mean, we saw immediately after the election, the stock markets and crypto just absolutely skyrocketed.
Which is fun. Do you have crypto? What do you got? What do you got?
I would never say that on, I would never tell you on camera.
No, I want to hear. I'm so excited. Well, not the
have
quantity.
Crypto. Oh yeah, I
not
have
the
crypto.
quantity.
Yep.
What coins do you have?
Primarily Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Could you retire right now based on that?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
I could have retired a long time ago, but I would get bored.
Yeah, same. Okay. So I like that prediction. Like if we think that consumer confidence is going to go up, is anything else? Let's just wax poetic. Let's have fun here. What else do you think 2025 might be for roofing sales?
Roofing sales in 2025. I mean, like fun stuff.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. Gosh, I don't know. I think your brain is working better than mine for these like possibilities.
Oh, I'm just hoping the sales are good.
People getting rich as hell.
Yeah.
Business being good. I mean, gosh, we've been having I don't know. I don't see like. Some people seem to think that like the roofing industry is somehow closing down. That's just never going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just going to be a little bit different as far as like insurance and stuff like that. But you know, it's been really interesting to watch roofing catch on as kind of like blue collar millionaire status. Like, you know what I mean? So there's I think there are more and more, here's something that's interesting to consider. There are more and more people that are not buying into like the beaten path of like, you graduate high school and get your diploma, and then you go to, get 6 figures into debt, getting a degree in like art philosophy of the 20th century, and then come out in debt and then would need to go work a soul-sucking 9 to 5. So I find it fascinating. Like, I think there's going to be, people are losing trust in the like college is your golden ticket thing. And so I don't know, there's more and more people I think that are going to be turning to alternative career choices. And it's fascinating. Like, roofing is kind of cool just because it's this blue collar, like low-key, casual, real people industry, but you can make a shitload of money doing it. So I think if with the modernization of roofing and people getting way more active on social media and marketing and stuff like that, I'm sure that I just see the industry growing. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I hear different numbers, but it might be around like 60 billion of the market of total roofing.
Wow.
And there's private equity firms, so I'm homies with some of them. You know what I mean? Like, and some of the ones that have been good and some of the ones that have been bad, the roll-ups and stuff like that, and just like behind the scenes a little bit. And I think they think the market is bigger than it currently is, or could be expanded considerably. And over the next 10 years, home services as a total, market is expected to go up about like somewhere like 42 to 48%. So when I think we're having a bad year, because we have bad years every once in a while. Roofing is like, oh, there's no storms in Colorado for 4 years, or there's dry spells in different areas of the country, and it does hurt, and sometimes people go out of business, and it sucks. But when you look at the macro trends, home services is going up, up, up for the next 10 years. Private equity knows something, and that's why they're rushing here. It's safe. It's safe to put money into home services and to grow them and to modernize them and professionalize them. So I like the macro trends, not just like this next year, because who knows? We never know what these years. It might be a good year, it might be a bad year. Storms definitely help. But the macro trend is very positive.
Well, I mean, we're always going to have dwellings. You know what I mean? They're all like, those are like the time-proof businesses. Like, we're always going to need heating and cooling of some kind, and it might change. Oh, maybe there's more solar or whatever, but there's always going to be need for roofing. There's always going to be need for plumbing services. There's always going to be need for cooling service. Like, those are just things that are never going to go away. So, and they're never permanent, right? Like, show me an air conditioning unit that will never break down. Maybe in 100 years we'll come up with that. But like, roofing, every roof that we see right now on this planet is going to need to be replaced at some point. It's just never going to end. So,
and the way we sell it might just change a little bit. And that's okay.
It's okay.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys watching. Where can they go to check out your stuff?
It's roofsalesmastery.com. You can also check me out on Instagram and YouTube, Roof Sales Mastery, and shoot me an email, send me a DM. I will respond personally.
Awesome. And the podcast is put on by hvac.com. We're part of that whole get them to 80% before they come to you thing. We want to help your marketing do better at pre-selling people a little bit and help you get more leads. hvac.com. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.